President William Ruto shamelessly moved in to inherit Raila's estate, political estate. Shamelessly. You are inheriting a man's wife before he's even buried. And I'll tell you what he did. Number one, he said Mbadi Tosha. William Ruto does not misspeak. Of all the people who came in from the BBG, from the other side, he took time and spoke about Mbadi, attributed things that had already happened, including issues on exchange rate on the dollar, attributed it to Mbadi, spoke about inflation and everything else. Things he attributed to Mbadi, things that when I left government last year, we already had achieved, and Mbadi had not actually come into office then. The president came in and tried to force the Luo nation to pick Mbadi. Clear?
To pick him as what?
As a successor. He said, Siata Mbadi Tosha.
Okay.
That is not misspeaking. Politicians don't misspeak. A person of William Ruto's caliber cannot misspeak. And from Wandai, from our school, from all the others, he went in, zeroed in on Mbadi, and clearly said, Si huyu Mbadi pia anatosha. That was his way of actually trying to, he wanted, you remember how he tried with Kindiki when he tried to Gashagwanize him by saying this is a braquet. He wanted to run with the Rigiji flow. It didn't just catch on. Yesterday, he tried to actually run with Kibaki Tosha line by saying Mbadi Tosha, and that you can actually tell going forward that as at now, William Ruto's intelligence and thinking is that Mbadi will be a very good pick to actually replace Raila, and therefore that is Kindiki's replacement. From yesterday's speech, Mbadi is Kindiki's replacement as the running mate. Well, of course, it has got consequences because there are the people who have primed themselves for that position, like Gladys Wanga, for example. She's been very vocal about it. Or rather, she's postured as the Raila replacement. So, William Ruto started a war there. Two, he did not even shy away by saying that he will not allow ODM to actually be taken and end up playing opposition politics. He will not allow us who. In this country, you can only belong to one party. So he belongs to UDA, but he's not going to allow ODM. So substantively as we speak, William Ruto is actually the acting the party leader of ODM.
Now he's going to vie on ODM.
He's the ODM party leader, substantively. He went in, and everybody who spoke, we saw men who instead, like I've said, Wandai, a man decides to actually thank President William Ruto for all the time he spoke, Oparanya, and then there was this competition about who was closer to Raila. At some point, I heard Oparanya say that he was the person who was closest to Raila in these last days. And then I was wondering, between Ida Odinga and Oparanya, who is closer to Raila?
Why don't we throw in Oburu at it?
Yeah.
Yes, because Oburu is Raila's older brother. Yeah. So essentially he's claiming that he's closer to Raila than Oburu.
Yeah, so Oparanya was there saying that and you can actually catch it, you can actually find it out there. So when a man like Oparanya, now an old man saying that he was the closest to Raila, you start asking yourself questions. But then of course you know that there was a competition on who was scored last. So the people who spoke at the Raila's funeral, that is where discretion comes in my opinion.
But let me ask you something, Arnold.
Yes.
When you look at all that and you're talking about everyone you've mentioned is a politician.
Yeah.
This is the person they've come to bury. And you have the attention of the entire country, the entire continent, and whoever it is who is out there. The diaspora were tuned in and they were watching and listening and following. Given the way our politicians go about their business, our politicians by and large are opportunists. You can gauge them and determine the degree to which they're opportunists. But this was not an opportunity somebody was going to miss. Is it really? Because what was at stake here?
What was at stake, of course, was to catch the president's eye, to pledge loyalty. So much of those guys were there to pledge loyalty to the president because men were not ready to lose their meal ticket. Raila had been that bazaar who ensures that you have got your meal card, and now that the bazaar is no longer there, the guys who are telling the cooks, sisi tunataka top player, msituache nje. Like I want you to go and listen to Opiyo Wandayi, for example, specifically because he's a man I took. He spoke for almost 5 minutes just thanking President William Ruto. Yani alishukuru President William Ruto na akarudia kumshukuru kwa matanga ya Raila wakati hii haikuwa, has he never found an opportunity to thank the president?
Let me ask, how often have you heard a situation where when politicians stand up to speak, they actually eulogize the person who is dead? Don't they always bring their politics into that process?
The level of simping yesterday was not the Raila type of... It was a Raila function.
Yes, it was.
I'm telling you, it was a Raila function, and there's the Raila spirit. Raila can actually ask for something forcefully, tena na kiburi. It's for you who is holding it to actually give him. Raila was not known to simp. Raila was not known to bend a knee for a meal. He can still have it his way. I'm just saying that in a Raila event, that kind of going out to beg, literally, and turning the president into some sort of god. And then, of course, there are the ODM infightings. You could actually see what is actually going to happen. You can actually see the other group that is saying, this is where Baba left us and Baba told us, and then Sifuna came up and referenced the last meeting.
Public.
Said, this is the last meeting. And Baba asked, who told you? So you can actually see the tensions already. It was so much about, of course, the successionists. Allow me to call them successionists. The people who feel like they are in control of how ODM is actually going to play out. A day after Raila died, they were pushed, of course, by the state. They did a national executive committee meeting. They installed Nuru Okanga as an acting party leader. That was to ensure that there is no vacuum. The whole of yesterday, a day before the burial, when we see Opiyo Wandayi showing up, the first thing he's speaking about is about broad-based and how they are going to remain in government, and that there is no doubt about that. He's in a rush as if he's being chased by somebody else. Then yesterday, for all of the politicians that spoke, I'm talking about the ODM, the Azimio politicians, all of them, at least a majority of them, except the youthful ones, the young ones, and they were not given an opportunity. Raila was an opposition politician, for example. The current opposition was totally edged out of that particular program. They were literally managed. And of course, Kalonzo spoke because there had been a lot of pressure. Even people saying this man had been with Raila for 3 consecutive times. Raila ran 5 times. Kalonzo has been with him. We're talking about a major leader standing with Raila 3 times. And what kind of time is he given? Among the other people. And it took Kalonzo to actually acknowledge the other opposition players there. Yet Raila has been the embodiment of opposition politics in this country. But the state really wanted to run with that as if Raila is a government, quote unquote, an establishment person. And to actually say this, the state did not give Raila, the government of the day did not give Raila a state burial with military honors because they thought really that he deserved. But I will tell you this, the government was going to suffer FOMO. The government wanted to steal the limelight because, number one, Raila was the people's president. If you deny him a state burial, the people will give him the people's state burial. They already did that, with or without the state. If you deny him full military honors, the people will give him the people's military honors. So it was government having the fear of missing out on that action. That is why they actually had to do that. And it wasn't like they did him a favor.
He was prime minister anyway.
He was number one, prime minister. Number two, this country is made in Raila's image, largely. What we are doing here, because Raila embodied the struggle. Of course, lots of thousands of people were in the struggle, but he embodied the enduring spirit of that particular struggle. And until at the very end, he owned it. So there was no way they could have, even if the state, do you really think that we would be talking about any other thing if the state hadn't given him the state burial? We will still be talking about Raila Odinga. We are going to talk about him for the next 1 year non-stop. It's not going to go away. So even if the state wanted or not, it will still end up that way. So I don't think, Fanya, we should actually spend a lot of time talking about the speeches made there because, number one, they were underwhelming, looking at the Raila spirit, the Raila legacy, the Raila vision. Men who are there are men Raila will look down upon. The speeches that were given down there are not the kind of speeches that you would want to.
I have a